everybody. Thank you for coming. Just a few comments, and we'll talk some more about this as we go through the morning session, but the board has worked very hard over the past several months in responding to the committee's efforts to create, identify projects relevant to their committees and moving them through the camp process. And we have agreed on a ballot, or actually two ballot measures that will be presented to the membership in March to approve. Come in.
Turn some microphones off.
As your heart. Okay. So it's like Santa's elves are hard at work up the ceiling. So we will offer two measures on the ballot in addition to the election of board members. One will be to approve 7 projects that you have presented to us for renovation, reconstruction, or construction. And the second ballot question will be to authorize an increase in monthly member assessment to either directly fund or borrow money through a financing plan so that we can start these projects. So it's, we're very grateful for all the work you've done on those processes, and we depend on you, the committee chairs, to present the information that describing these projects at town hall meetings, and to do as much as you can to encourage the membership to vote to approve those two ballot measures. So with that, I'll begin the meeting by inviting Mr. Meyer of Bylaws Committee to offer his report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Merry Christmas to all. The Bylaws Committee did not meet in December. The only item on the agenda would have been the approval of the November minutes. So we didn't have any other items on the agenda, so we got the approval of those minutes by email. They were approved and they've been submitted to Mary Smith. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We had what I call a Ronald Reagan meeting. He who governs least governs best.
Okay, that's good. We're dismissed. Second is ACC, Jim Miller.
We did have our meeting 2 weeks ago tomorrow. Regular scheduled meeting. There were 6 houses. I'm always surprised when the building trend keeps going like it is now. We've had at least one house up to as many as 7 every 2 weeks. There's currently about 40 homes under construction here in Pecan. That's a lot of houses. There's a lot of houses around Pecan. There's going to be a lot more, so we're going to have to really pay attention to what we're doing. These are not necessarily new members. They may be people that have owned a lot. Okay, is that better?
These mics work when you're talking to the top of them. There you go.
It doesn't work this way. It works that way. Okay. I've only been on this for 5 years. A lot of these homes are being built by the developer. If you have any question about that, go over in the new Park Place, which used to be Orchard 12. That and the new airport are significant. It doesn't matter where they're built, just so they get built and sold and used. We have another meeting tomorrow, so I'll add that to our report next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I bought actually two of the books that Winnette Burns and Ron Highsmith have published. A beautiful coffee table book describing pecan plantation, and in that they describe some years in the 80s where, I think 1982, when there was a downturn in the economy, we had only 2 houses built for that whole year. So it's gratifying to see that the booming has picked up significantly.
I was on the board when that occurred, and it was pretty ugly. But it's pleasing to see what's happening.
Okay, next is Finance with Bob Zimke.
Thank you. Finance Committee met yesterday morning. As usual, it was quite active. The committee is recommending to the board that they consider for approval 2 AFEs. One is for bunker liners in the amount of $65,000 on a budget of $65,000, and an administrative officer copy in the amount of $17,500. That was on a budget of $24,000, so it's about $6,500 less than the budget amount, which we appreciate. As far as the financials, I think the financials are presented at the end of the year. Financials were presented to the board at the last meeting. So I was just going to give you a little report on the end of the year balance sheet and looking at the equity. Our equity for the PPOA and PPC increased by about $495,000. So right now, the equity of our association, which you all are part of, is $17,661,000. Not a bad organization. As far as the current financials, we only have the 1 month report on, and the net income is $41,530, or $44,900 ahead of the budget for the first month. Capital funds or reserve funds. Now we have 3 reserve funds as of the first of the year. The capital reserve fund, which takes care of all the current assets, shows a balance of $2,242,000 with outstanding commitments of $960,000. Any excess that you see there is pretty well obligated to future improvements of current assets. The new capital fund, which is a new one, is showing a balance of $92,000 with current commitments of $17,500. This new fund primarily is for any new assets. And of course, the last reserve fund is our road and drainage fund. Has a balance of $690,000 with commitments of $275,000. I'm pretty sure that the road and drainage group or infrastructure group has all that total amount committed, or they plan to have it committed in the very near future, I feel sure. The other business that we had was review of changes to our authorized capital expenditure. With this new fund, it requires us to change our form up slightly, so therefore DCR will be forthcoming. We finalized the Finance Committee's response to the board's request for the survey information, and Ross will get that as soon as I get it emailed to him. Another active, lively discussion was the need of a centralized representative to effectively oversee the purchasing for PPOA and PPCC. You can call it a purchasing agent or call it what you will, and we feel very strongly that there should be some consistency in our purchasing. And again, most of the committee, I feel, would like the board to consider that. That about wrapped it up. Any questions?
I'd like to elaborate just on the purchase of the copier machine for $17,000. You know, there's been a lot of talk about whether we should purchase it or whether we should lease it, and I just want everyone to know that that was discussed at length at the finance meeting. The price for purchasing was good, was right, it was measured, and that the decision was made, rightfully so, by the Finance Committee to recommend that we approve that copier machine, and I support that. I just wanted to make it clear that the copier machine is not being purchased haphazardly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Bob? If not, we'll move on to long-range planning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Long-range planning met on December the 11th, at our regular scheduled meeting. We didn't have any new camps this time, so it was going over some of the camps that are in existence. Carter Grisham reported that the golf pavilion that received board approval in January to move forward, the structure will start, phase one will start sometime in January is what's predicted right now. And it will look like if anyone saw the picture of the pavilion, it will have stone and stone columns and a metal roof. The Marina Committee, several of the board members met with the Marina Committee, and they have an initial conceptual drawing that I'm sure Jerry's going to talk about, but I think I can speak on behalf of the board that I shared with them yesterday the drawing, that we're real excited about this project moving forward. It's going to create a lot of value for the association, for our members, and for our visitors. So I think it's going to be a great project. A couple other things. I've noticed that the back circle hasn't been completed yet, and I'm sure everybody else has, and that is because the women's club, or not the women's club, I'm sorry, women's club, but the Green Thumb Club wanted some more work on the trellis, so they wanted it to be more decorative, so that is still in the progress of getting done. So in terms of Finance Committee, who also reports at the Long Range Planning Committee, Mr. Zimsky brought up the fact that when these camp projects become realized and construction starts on them, that there's the use of internal resources that needs to be accounted for out of the Capital Reserve Fund. And so Mr. Zimsky and the Finance Committee will be taking a look at how to do that, instead of having that money come out of the Operations Fund. And our next meeting is January the 8th.
Questions for long-range planning? If not, we'll turn it over to Michael.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's start out with Roger Merrill and Grounds.
Good morning. We did not have a meeting in December, but I do have a couple of updates on some projects we've been working on. Actually, I wanted to also report that we're currently 2 members short in our committee due to some commitments by members that had to resign. So we do have one person visiting our committee meeting on January the 2nd. That's a possible new member. So
again, the microphones work when you talk into the top of it, not to the side. Yeah.
Is that good? Yeah. All right. Do I have to repeat everything I said?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. There's an update on the Plantation Hike and Bike Trail. I met with the board workshop earlier this month, and they asked me to continue with the development of this project. And one of our members has suggested that we pursue a grant from the Texas Parks and Wildlife to help fund it. and he's had some experience working with Texas Parks and Wildlife. Even though this is a private entity, if the county, according to him, if the county sponsors us for this grant, there's a possibility that we could get money from the Texas Park and Wildlife to fund it. So we're going to pursue that as a possible funding for the Plantation Trail. This is Michael Ross, who, by the way, is the assistant city manager for Granbury, and he's been working with a company that's actually working with Granbury on that same kind of project, trails and hike and bike trails within Granbury. There's a company that's helping them to achieve a grant from Texas Parks and Wildlife for that project in Granbury. So there's some expertise that might be available to us to look into that. Also, the board has said that we need to define the easement boundaries around Plantation Drive in order to pursue what we would like to do with that project. So we're in the process of doing that with one other Pecan resident, Larry Turman, who's done a lot of surveying for Pecan. And so we're trying to get information we need to define those easement boundaries. And hopefully we don't have to do a complete survey, but that may be what we have to do in the future. The only other project we're working with is trying to develop an actual ramp access to the river at the front at the front gate or the main bridge across the Brazos. There's been a lot of interest in developing a ramp for kayaks and other small boats that we could develop to have good access to the river. So we're looking at that project. And I believe that's all I have today, unless anybody has any.
Anybody have any questions for Roger? Yes.
Just mentioned the fact that Michael Ross is a resident of Pecan. He lives down in Ravenswood. He's my neighbor, so it's nice to have somebody like that living out here.
Thank you. Yes, he is.
Mr. Turner?
This is from personal experience in terms of when you seek and you negotiate a grant from either the state or the feds, you best read the fine print, because frequently there's so much strings attached that you never see until you actually get the money, and then it's too late. So I would say the legal beagles need to really understand what you're buying into when you go after a state or federal grant.
Good point. Thank you very much. Any other comments? If not, we'll move on to wildlife and Vance Blaylock.
Hello. Speaking into the end of it, we had a December 8th meeting. We had a quorum that started at 08:30. We had a room full of visitors. We might explore the possibility of a larger room. We had a due report by Mr. Van Patten. So far this year, of our 250 target, we have trapped 105 as of December 8th. We discussed net locations, since there's been so much discussion among members as to the in-your-face type situation. The nets are located near roads, so the deer will not be, they're used to normal traffic close to the nets or by the nets, so they don't pay attention to the people who monitor as they drive by each trapping location. Plus, these nets have to be triggered manually, and if they're close to a road, it allows that to be more ease of tripping the nets. And when they're closer to the road, high visibility, there's less vandalism and interference from our members. The committee is exploring different trapping options, but so far, the hanging net types seem to be the most cost-effective. There are some very expensive drape nets that are hidden from public view, and it was again discussed by one member the need to set them in non-visible areas. Unfortunately, we can't get the deer to cooperate in that. The orchard was reinforced that the orchard does allow trapping after the harvest, and in areas that there don't have any activity, even if the harvest is taking place. It was also reinforced that the committee does not schedule trapping or hanging of nets during the actual holidays. It was brought up that there was some concern about nets in parks that children could get under and be injured. In the history of our nets, we have never had anybody injured by a falling net, even the one person who drove under and hit the mechanisms with their golf cart in an effort to sabotage the trapping. We discussed, by the suggestion of one visitor, trapping every other year. But due to the birth rate of deer, it would be very hard to maintain our maintenance level recommended by the state, which during discussion in the Wildlife Committee, we have agreed that pecan can actually maintain with safety and health considerations 650 deer, where the state is recommending we reduce our population to 450. We moved on with our discussions to the growing hog problem. It was discussed about the different traps, and Mr. Van Patten emphasized that in his experience of many years that the root gate that allows the hogs to push in but not push out is the most effective gate system. It also keeps deer from wandering in those traps and triggering the trapping mechanism. Let's see. We discussed purchasing a hog buster trapping system, which the whole trap is extended above the ground about 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet, and the whole trap mechanism falls and traps the hog. That trap runs about $6,000 for the one trap for the low end with a black and white video monitoring system. We can, Mr. Van Patten emphasized that we can build 4 to 6 in-house traps of similar size for that cost of that single trap. So I think the committee is leaning towards going with the in-house traps with root gates. It was, we did have a member bring up working with the committee, working with Mr. Van Patten in setting up video surveillance on hog traps. And He's also stated that he should be able to rig up a remote trapping release for hog traps, for them to be monitored. That is, we're exploring that at this time with that member. And he will work with Mr. Van Patten rather than with the whole committee. Another member suggests that we may consider a flow restrictive type dam across from the clubhouse running across the width of the river to artificially raise the Brazos level to restrict hog travel. And I suggested that he take that initiative and contact the state and the Brazos River Authority and see what he can find is allowed and not allowed. We had Mr. Kim Schlotz visit the committee, and he asked that we work on putting together videos for the communication committee to use in their in programs and on the website. And with that, we adjourned 32 minutes late at 10:02.
Thank you, Mr. Blaylock.
Are you going to ask for volunteer members to put them in the yard of their property?
Starting in July now, we request trapping sites from all members. In the past, we've had residents allow us to put up traps, deer traps, and hog traps along their deep backyards on the river along Ravenswood. That has kind of tapered off. We haven't had the volunteers come forward. We have people who own lots give written permission to set up nets, and the nets along the road seem to draw a lot of criticism. But unless the board restricts how we now set up nets and where we can, that will continue. To the bewilderment of the board, I have done that on Nextdoor Pecan. And we will also do it on the columns in the next July issue. A request for volunteers with the count and selecting netting sites. You're welcome.
We've had one more trapping, Daniel. How many did we get the last?
We ended up with 36 animals. We did have quite a bit of interference. We probably would have had 50 or more. So we're up to 141.
141, okay.
Vance, I have a member that's contacted me and volunteering some property for a net, so I will give that name to you.
If you would, give it to Mr. Van Patten.
I'd be glad to.
He sets up, monitors, and takes most of the heat for the location.
Vance, how does a root gate trap work?
Daniel, you want to explain that?
A root gate is basically just a hinged gate where the animals can open the gate and let themselves in. It seems to work best with the deer population that we have out here. That's the most success I've had in catching the pigs. Anything that has a trip wire or some mechanism to trip the gate, over 90% of the time the deer go in and trip it for us. So all it is, it's an angled gate. It's at about a 45-degree angle, and the hogs can actually open the gate and let themselves in, and it drops back closed.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel.
If you want to see one at Flight Plan and Final Approach Court on the southeast corner in Tony Patton's house, it's right there on the side. So when you're driving down Flight Plan, you can take a look and see what that standard trap looks like.
Did you have a question, Dennis?
Yeah, just a question for Vance. Did you say we can or cannot trap in the orchard?
The orchard allows trapping after the harvest season and in select locations just before and at the start of harvesting.
And that's deer and hogs?
I think they're very, the short answer, yes.
Any other comments, questions?
One more, I just want to get on the record that trapping hogs is a time-consuming effort. Hogs will have to get used to a trap in a location before they ever start using it. It'll take weeks sometime for a hog to access a trap.
Once you get a hog in the trap, are they euthanized right there, or are they tranquilized? How does that process work?
Daniel? I have never personally taken care of plantation hogs, but Daniel has.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Once you have a hog in the trap, do you euthanize them in the trap? Do you tranquilize them? What do you do next?
They're terminated in the trap.
In the trap, okay. Yeah. Can you deliver some of that meat to both, for instance?
Definitely. I'll put her on the call list. It goes rather quickly.
Lisa, if any of you, the audience, asks a question without a mic, would the committee chair repeat the questions, get it on the record?
Miss.
If we do nothing, what will happen as a result of that?
Nothing.
Regarding the hogs?
Regarding the hogs have 3 litters a year, so one female will produce anywhere from about 15 to 30 pigs a year, and we have groups of 50 hogs that probably 50 or better % are females, so this problem is going to explode.
And the issue is very difficult to trap in a residential area, and so we've trapped about 12, but we need to trap a lot more than that to make a dent in the population. Any other questions? Ray Lewis and the Airport Committee.
After that, my problems are simple. We had our normal meeting on the second Wednesday of each month, and I'll only report on a couple of issues. The GPS report, GPS approach rather, that we have been working on now for 3 or 4 years has made some substantial progress. The FAA has actually taken this over from the contractor and has completed designing the approach themselves. Essentially, the design is at no cost to the airport. They will charge us for coming out and flying the survey, which the airport residents have collected sufficient funds that are in an account by Janice that has currently to pay for that. And we're encouraged that early next year we will have an active approach here in Pecan. And it's been a long battle, and we should give tremendous credit to Joe Sasser. Has made multiple trips to Oklahoma City himself and met with them and has a good relationship with the FAA. And in spite of a contractor that went south on us, they finally fired him, the FAA did. And so looks like we're finally going to make some progress on this. Regarding the Plantation Park Pavilion, which we initiated, and the board asked us to go back and improve on it to bring it up to standards. We have the bid request prepared. Daniel finished the work on that after a subcommittee worked on it. But we made a decision because of a hiccup in the agreement between the Experimental Aircraft Association and the homeowner that allowed them to build a hangar on his lot. And the negotiations are continuing to resolve that. I certainly hope that that will happen. And the committee has agreed that no more than 2 months, hopefully only 1 month delay before we go out for bids to the contractor. I just didn't want to go out a second time and then have to change our mind. I figured we'd lose a lot of credibility with the contractors if we did that. So we're giving that negotiation a month or two to mature and reach a resolution. Other than that, it was routine maintenance around the airport and issues that are airport specific, and we had a good meeting.
Comments, questions for Ray? Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Gordon Johnson and Ty Harper will be presenting safety and security.
Thank you very much. One of the things that we met on the 13th of December and had probably an hour and 45-minute meeting, which seems to be a little bit long, but we got a lot of discussion about a couple of things. One of them is the traffic study that when I appeared with you with Ron Liddell when he made a presentation to the board, the committee is a little reluctant to go along with making a decision without doing a little bit more, what should I say, investigating into what might be appropriate speed on our roads here. So each of the committee members has agreed that we will all drive from certain points on the plantation to another point on the plantation, timing what it takes for us to get from point A to point B to point C, and making a record of that. And then we will, at various speeds, like 25 miles an hour, which may make somebody following you a little unhappy. And then we'll go 30 miles an hour, and then we'll go 35 miles an hour where it's safe, and time what it takes. For instance, this morning, on my way here, driving from 6920 Westover Drive, it took me 4 minutes and 45 seconds to get from front of my house to here. So and that is at 30 miles an hour. So if I drive 35 miles an hour, it would take me 4 minutes and 37 seconds. So anybody that wants to talk about speeding, wanting to raise the speeds, what's 7 seconds or 8 seconds in a trip like that? So we're going to take a look at that, and then once we finish with it in January, we will come back to you with a proposal. At this point in time, we felt like some of our members were a little gun-shy after the experience with the stop signs out on Ravenswood. So we're not going to get into that one again. Crime Watch is struggling right now because I think maybe it's complacency on the part of a lot of people on the plantation. There are a few people on the plantation that seem to think that there's a crime wave, which is not true, but, appearances for some folks might make it seem that way. But Crime Watch, under the leadership of Mark Pump, who is a very bright guy with all kinds of things going on with cell phones and radios and whatnot, half of which I understand, and the other half I'm kind of questioning whether I understand it or not. But our goal is to develop Crime Watch again and to make it into a group of volunteers on the plantation who will be cooperating with security in just traveling around the plantation or sitting in a location where we know that there has been some difficulty in the past with inappropriate behavior on the part of residents or visitors to the plantation. It's a non-intervention type, just having more sets of eyes out on the roads and streets here on the plantation. So again, I would solicit your help in asking for more people in the plantation to volunteer to be a part of Crime Watch. And Mark Pump is the leader of this. I just happen to be interested in participating in it because I've done it in places that I've lived in the past. And it's an eye-opener sometimes with things that you will see. And it's kind of trying to help neighbors take better care of neighbors. I guess that's the best way to say it. We have a committee resolution or an amendment to the committee resolution that I would like to discuss with probably Beverly Franson at some time, so that the wording is going to be appropriate when we come back with that as a recommendation from our committee. We know that there's going to be a new gate entry system, and we're very pleased to hear that that's going to be taking place in the near future. What we're concerned about is whether or not people on the plantation will understand what the process is. So we have talked with our chief of security and with people on the committee who understand what that means for being able to use your cell phone to call someone in without having to go through the rigmarole of calling the security office and then giving a name and in your membership number. We're also concerned that we do have contractors, commercial vehicles on our roads that are really not obeying the speed limits, and we are recommending, will be recommending formally increase in the fines for those who are commercial and contractors that are speeding on our roads. There's another item, and that is to hand out reminders to visitors as well as to the commercial drivers what the speed limits are on the plantation currently, so that sometimes people will come through the gate and they will not notice that it says 35 miles an hour or 25 for trucks and larger vehicles. So we're recommending that be given out to each one of those folks who's coming on the plantation properties. And finally, some concern about vehicles, commercial vehicles, contractors, whether they're lawn mowing people or they're digging ditches alongside our roads, that when they park blocking traffic, that many of them are not putting out cones. And we think that they have to have a reminder of that, and if they're not doing it, that they should then be warned, and if it repeats, that they should be ticketed, so that there would be a fine for not doing what it is they're supposed to be doing whenever they're parking and blocking traffic. I've had experiences myself driving around the plantation of seeing this, and not only people blocking traffic in one direction, but 20 feet down the road, another vehicle is parked blocking traffic going the other direction. So you're doing S-turns to be able to get around vehicles that are parked and blocking traffic. So we need to have that enforced in some way. And I think the first thing to do is give them a note that says, this is what we expect of you. And if they don't do it, write them up. Any questions?
Yeah, just a comment or two. First of all, I've been doing Crime Watch, and I think it's a good program, and I encourage everybody to just contact Mark and Mark Pump and get involved. Second thing, with regard to truck and car traffic in Pecan, we discussed this issue, and I wonder what your committee's recommendations are going to be, that we eliminate the difference between truck speed limits and auto speed limits. I don't think that's a safe system. And finally, with regard to the obstruction when contractors are parking on the street, certainly they're not putting their cones out, but even more importantly, they're parking on the wrong side. Instead of coming into the street and parking in front of the house on the proper side, they'll just pull over and park facing traffic the wrong way. So I think we should warn them or maybe prepare a information sheet for them that says, first violation will be a warning, second there'll be a fine, and third, you'll be excluded from the community.
Well, we agree with you. That's one of the things we discussed on the committee, and of course, with a committee of 9, plus David Leverton, who is our, what do we call David?
Member Emeritus.
Emeritus, there we go. Invaluable man to be on the committee because he has a history and reminds us of things that have worked in the past or might not have. Yes, we agree that we do need to look at that because 25 miles an hour for a heavy truck going up from the front circle to Plantation Drive going 25, people behind are kind of getting a little perturbed that they have to go 25 miles an hour because they can't get around the truck. So we're going to consider that the speed limits be the same for everyone, including some guys' golf carts that are all fired up. That's essentially we agree with that statement, and that's what we're going to be proposing, I'm sure.
Thank you, Gordon.
I just have one other comment, and I think Bev does as well. I noted about a month ago that we have some Revolver Brewing Company box trucks are coming through Pecan about 8:30 at night from the back or the west circle to the front, using our roads just as a pass-through, and I wonder if you followed up on that.
I have not heard about it, but I can ask our chief here what he knows about that.
Just a comment. I do a lot of walking, and I did see a contractor that was parked on the wrong side of the road, didn't have cones. I went up and he was asleep in his car, in his pickup, so I knocked on the window, he woke up, and, I said, I don't know if you know the rules, but you're violating our rules. And I said, do you know you're supposed to have cones? And he said, no. And I said, do you know you're parked on the wrong side of the street? And he said, no. And so I said, well, you need to know the rules. Long story short, he got out of his car, he woke up, he turned his car around and got on the right side, but he didn't have cones. But I saw him another time and he had cones. So I mention this because I think we're all members out here and we know the rules. Hopefully we know the rules as it relates to contractors. And if we see someone in violation, be nice to them, remind them of what the rules are. And, that will help you because like you said, you're a committee of 9 and there's a lot of cars out here to monitor. And it'll help the security people as well. Thanks for all you do, by the way.
My only comment with that is I made one driver aware of the fact that he was blocking traffic going from both directions, again, 15 feet away from another vehicle that was going the other way that didn't have cones, and he didn't either. And I stopped and rolled my window down and honked my horn, and he looked at me and he rolled his window down, and I won't repeat what he said. When I reminded him that he was parked, blocking traffic, and might he not move? He chose not to, and so I called security and said, hey, take a look at this.
Well, maybe you need to have blonde hair and a ponytail. Maybe that helps.
Well, I don't think I'm going to go there.
Thank you, Gordon. Any other comments or questions for Gordon? Let's move on to Ty Harper. And Ty, about the contractors, can we make sure that is taken care of with an information sheet?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
In November, we had some things that happened. On the 2nd, we had a golf maintenance vehicle and a car have a crash on Wedgefield. The vehicle was attempting to pass the golf maintenance vehicle as they were turning onto the golf course, and they collided on Wedgefield. There was some damage to the vehicles, but nobody was hurt, fortunately. On the 4th, we had an ATV that turned over on Monticello. There were visitors driving their parents' ATV, and something flew out of their ATV and then made a sharp U-turn, and it caused the vehicle to turn over. and there was a 3-year-old boy in the ATV too. Unfortunately, there were no injuries, but those ATVs have no safety features, so be extra careful driving those. On the 10th, we had a crash at the entrance of Pecan. Somebody made the turn and missed the turn, went into the ditch. Hood County Sheriff's Department showed up, and that individual was taken to jail because they were not legal to drive. On the 12th, we had a karaoke night that ended up having a fight in the bar area. One of the individuals was knocked unconscious. Both of the individuals were fined and banned from the clubhouse. On the 22nd, we had a FedEx driver report to security that somebody was following them, picking up all the things that they were dropping off. So security responded and found the vehicle, and it turned out what it was a truck picking up donations for wounded veterans. So it was not what he thought it was, but the driver was aware, and that was good that he knows what was going on around him. On the 30th, we had a vehicle at the Backgate Circle that was waiting in line behind another vehicle to merge into traffic, and their foot slipped off of the brake pedal, causing them to rear end the vehicle in front of them. And unfortunately, that vehicle in front of them was a patrol car. So there was no damage to the vehicles, but that person was pretty upset, so she got over it eventually. We had a total of 5,060 calls in November to the security office, 7 loose and lost pets, 10 barking dogs, 2 animal reports, 4 crashes, 2 mailbox damaged, 2 items reported lost or stolen, 5 driving complaints, 6 suspicious activity, and 3 parking complaints. We had 68 citations in November. 59 were first-time speeders. 2 of them, it was their second-time speeders. So the rest of the tickets were barking dogs, loose dogs, trash, and stop sign. 53 of the citations were on Plantation, 7 Ravenswood, and the rest on various streets. 43 were to members, 17 to guests, 2 to vendor, 1 employee, and 5 contractors. We had 52 calls in the month of November that went to Hood County Sheriff's Department. Most of them were 911 related, mostly information, misdials, just a variety of question calls. And that completes my report.
Comments, Mr. Dr.
Yeah, just one other question. Are we done with the guardrail at the entry, or will that be extended? Is it still a safety code?
That's a good question for Daniel.
Yeah, the issue with the guardrail right now is actually a mud water line. We're trying to figure out a way to avoid moving another water line. So it'll be after the first of the year. Markham, the company that puts in the guardrails, should be geared up to put in the guardrail after the first of the year, and I think we have a solution to go ahead and extend it.
So it will be extended, though?
It will definitely be extended.
On both ends?
No, just on the oncoming end.
Okay, because there are cones at the tail end as well.
I just elected to leave the cones there. I was not comfortable with the SGT on the oncoming side, so we left the cones there.
Thank you, Daniel. Let's move on to Brenda Palmer, Entertainment and Sports and Rec.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As 2017 winds down, we in the Entertainment Committee look forward to an amazing new year. Started off this year with the Mardi Gras in the Brazos, which will be January the 27th, followed by Valentine's Day dinner dance on February the 14th, Lucky Clover karaoke on March 17th, Pecan's Got Talent on April 27th, Unique Car Show on May 19th, and the Memorial Day Street Dance on May 27th. How's that for a starter? Pretty good, right? The members social was a big success. Kudos to the Women's Club for turning the clubhouse into a Christmas wonderland, the food and beverage staff for making everything move so smoothly. New Year's Eve celebration is up next. Be sure and make your reservations, as this is a very popular event. The sign-up sheet is ready for reservations for the 2018 Mardi Gras on the Brazos. This year, as I've said before, the theme is for decorations will be no theme. So whatever the crew would like, can't wait to see what they come up with. And that's it for entertainment, other than be sure and check your columns.
Before you continue, Brenda.
Yes.
With regard to entertainment, in the new book, it describes a whole variety of entertainment and recreational events, like boat races on the river, and you might take a look at that, see why we're not doing those kinds of things. A lot of community building activities that we don't do anymore.
I will certainly look. I have the book too, but unlike you, I have not made it all the way through. I will check that out and present it to the committee. Boot races on the Brazos?
Boot races. It looked like a lot of fun.
All right. Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I have a comment to make here concerning entertainment. Tonight at the 19th hole, big party. It's a Christmas party. It's going to be rocking, so you all better come early so you can get a place to be at. 19th hole tonight.
Is there a dress requirement tonight too? I thought you had to wear a sweater of some sort, right?
Yeah, it's a gross me out sweater night kind of thing. So, but it's a Christmas naughty and nice theme. The place is going to be packed, so I'm telling you, come early if you're going to go. I'm going to be there.
And no fighting.
Yeah.
No fighting.
I think it starts whenever you get there. I think 6 to whenever.
6 o'clock, yeah.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock till the lights are turned off. See you there. I'm going to be there.
Anything else? Go ahead.
I think I'll move on to sports and rec. Archery air gun, the turkey shoot and the don't shoot your eye out tournaments have passed, and I want to thank all the PPAA volunteers for helping make these very popular events a big success. Community gardens, the fencing is up and plans for the next phase are underway. Tennis, Junior Santa Camp will start today from 1 to 3, and then PPTA members have voted to dedicate $30,000 to the 7th tennis court. I have it in writing from them, and I want to say thank you very much to the PPTA. Dog park. Picnic in the park was a big success. All food received was donated to Friends for Animals, and I understand there was a lot of that, so congratulations to the dog park people. Campground. An ad hoc subcommittee has been set up, which will be led by Bill Green, and will be looking into ideas and candidates for the campground host. As many of y'all know, we lost Mike Stewart, so it is very important that we come up with some solution to having a campground host there regularly. Okay, this is very important. So this committee has hit their deck running, and we should have a really good report for you in January. The PAC. Wreaths have been made, holiday paintings and portraits have been completed, and gingerbread houses erected. Now all is ready for the kids to get out of school Friday. So please keep an open eye for the little ones that frolic in Pecan. Playground. Due to the need for a more comprehensive long-range plan for our playgrounds here in Pecan, Keith has recruited a new PPOA member, Gertricia Farmer, to possibly head up this new subcommittee. We will be meeting after this meeting, and I'll have more to report next month. And a special thank you to the Women's Club for their beautiful decorations at the PAC and Tennis Center. Their hard work is greatly appreciated. Check your columns.
Thank you, Brenda. Comments, questions? We appreciate everything you do. Jerry Cotter, Marine Committee.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? All right, fine. The new dock and gas pump projects will be taking place in January 8th approximately, we hope, if everything's in place. So that'll start beginning, and we're glad to see that. As Beth mentioned, we received a preliminary drawing on the grill for the project of the grill and the store at the marina. We don't have the drawing for the store yet, and so we haven't seen a plat of the whole area yet. But what we did see with the drawing on the marina, on the grill, was excellent, and it really shows we're moving forward and looking in the right direction. So we need to go forward with that, and we will continue to do so. I've asked Sean Thomas to set up a meeting with the architect for he and I to sit down with him and look at some of the ideas that he has. Just give feedback. Huh? Okay. But anyway, we're going to be doing that. When we got the drawing, none of us in the committee had seen the drawing before, and it generated more questions than answers very quickly. So we know we have a ways to go with that, and we'll do so. As far as the long-range planning is concerned, we're going to work with the drawings in the plot to see how we want to move forward with some of the other projects that we want to bring forward. The other thing we're working on now is the boat slip rental and agreement with it and pricing for that. First of all, let me say that when we do get that completed, and hopefully we'll get it this spring, we will be bringing it to the board for the board to take a look at, make their comments, get legal authority on how that lease should be drawn up and that type of thing before we go forward. We're not going to go forward without the board's approval on that. And that's it for the marina right now.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yes, I have a question, Jerry, on those drawings. You know, at the last meeting, we discussed, or you discussed, the possibility of putting those drawings on the web page. I mean, have we done anything with communications on that?
I haven't done anything with communications on that yet. No, I was waiting to see if we could get the other drawing to go with it.
Good.
Yeah,
because I think putting that out there so that the members can see, the outstanding work that's being done down there. So I think it would be a positive. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that. And also I want to say we're doing this in conjunction with food and beverage as well, the Lou's committee, because of the grill and what activities are there.
Yeah, I have the drawing in front of me, and Jerry, I can't find an entrance. So I know you can get there from the boat, but I mean from the parking lot, I don't see an entryway.
See, there's another question.
Any other comments or questions for Marina Committee? Thank you, Jerry, Tammy Dressman, and the horse owners.
Okay, we are at full capacity at the stables. There's one person that doesn't have the horse there yet, but they had to get a stall before they could find a horse. So we're full there. We're still working on getting reasonably priced lights for the arena, but when you're working with relatives or friends, you kind of get put a little on the back burner, but that's okay. I think it'll pay off in the long run. So we're being patient on that. We've had a few guests at the using the holding pens and stuff, and that's worked out great. I've heard nothing but really good comments about that, since they know they have to just let us know that they're there now. So the sheep and goats, those are doing good. It's really cute to watch the progress when they first get the sheep and goats, and they're training them, how obstinate they are, to how cooperative they are with them afterwards. But it's cute. They use the round pen and the arena and the wash bay, and I saw one of them using a walker, but I think that was after quite a bit of training. But anyway, so that's all working out really well. And Daniel does a great job. His guys do a great job keeping everything maintained and in working order. That's all I have.
Thank you, Tammy. Any comments, questions?
Just a question, do we buy hay for, how do we feed the animals? Is each individual responsible, or do we buy?
For the horses or
yeah,
for the
for the
sheep?
horses.
No, we buy the hay for the horses, the hay and the feed, the grain.
And where does that come from? How's that budgeted?
It's part of your rental, and we take it out of the expenses.
Right.
And we use square bales instead of round. It's just easier to take care of.
It is, and it's actually a lot more cost-effective, too, because there's so much waste and stuff with the round bales, and we tried to go that route one time because people thought that would be more cost-effective, and that was kind of disastrous. So just about as quick as it went in, it went out. So we're doing everything we can to keep it, you know exactly what horse is getting what and all that with the square bells, and so that works out good for us.
Thank you, Tammy. Anybody else? Let's move on to Brian Rogers. He's going to report on communications and infrastructure.
Thank you. As far as infrastructure goes, the committee met December the 5th, normal time, and a quorum was present. We had a visitor, lives on Ashland Court, that has some concerns on drainage on a dry creek, I guess I'd call it. When it's not dry, it has damaged a bridge over his property that he used to access more or less from the back of his property to the river. After discussion in the committee and later on with Michael, we are going to present the, and maybe we already have, present the homeowner with what the association's position is on this issue. And I don't have an update on where that stands at the moment. Daniel Van Patten provided updates regarding the front entrance and Westover projects. They're both essentially complete. The front entrance, we're looking for bids to extend the guardrail, as was discussed earlier, but they hadn't been received at that time. And the overflow parking area just outside the guard facility, still ponding some water, and I noticed yesterday it was still ponding as well. And Daniel's working with the contractor to correct that. Westover drainage had the road striping, some work on the landowner property, a little bit of hydro seeding in some areas, and miscellaneous cleanup to finish that. We are looking at 4 new drainage projects, and HOF has been asked to provide recommendations and studies on those. They will present them at our January meeting, which has been moved to January the 8th. The first Tuesday of the month would be the day after New Year's, and maybe people wouldn't be in such good shape to provide meaningful input at that meeting. But hopefully that'll give us a little bit more direction on which way to go. Area inspections, all of them have been completed and tabulated, and nothing was really found that needed a change to the current plan for roads or drainage. Road repairs, we've got 6 roads in line for repair and possible replacement or repavement, and they are Belchase and Ravenswood near Monticello, Pleasant Hill, Air Park Drive, Hanging Moss, and Prospect Hill. Sorry, there's 5 of them. So Daniel is going to finalize the extent of the repairs or rework needed for each of those so we can begin the process, including prioritizing. And that completes the infrastructure report.
Any questions on infrastructure? All right, communications?
Communications Committee met November 15th, and we had a quorum of members present. The new PPOA internal phone system was expected to be put into service the following day on the 16th, and I believe that has happened, but I haven't got confirmation.
That's correct. We're operational now.
Great. Website update, we're still filling in some missing content, and some members have asked that information that's more than roughly 2 years old be made available on the new website rather than contact management for the desired information. And we're going to be discussing that as a committee and with management to determine the path forward on that. Interface with other committees is ongoing. Facebook page, we're continuing to gain followers, and noting that there's a pretty good percentage of persons that access Facebook and like and follow who are not residents of Pecan. Word's getting out. Member satisfaction survey, we have provided our suggested questions to the board. Probably, to me, the most meaningful event was the Collins magazine was delivered on time in November. So thanks to all the contributors and Darrell Davis for the efforts, and I know the members appreciated that. Content for clubs and groups, posting it on the website via Facebook link. We put out a request for interest in a Facebook training session on both the PPL website and other social media. We're getting some interest, but frankly not anywhere near the amount that expected there. So we'll probably have an info session for interested parties, possibly in January, but haven't finalized a date on that yet. And finally, some members have asked that the committee agendas be published to the full membership ahead of the committee meeting so the members can review and determine if they have questions or desire to attend. Suggestion was to link it to the calendar date that's part of the website, the lead time of about 1 week. So I don't know what the board or other committees' thoughts on that were. So I'd request any thoughts that someone might have on that.
I'd like to address that. In fact, I was going to bring that up to the committee chairs today. This came out on Nextdoor. There was a thread about making members aware of your agendas and also if your meetings have been canceled. We do have some members that are more actively attending committees, and we'd like to encourage others to do that. And so by putting your agendas and sending them to Mary a week in advance of your meeting, Mary can either shoot an email blast out or put it someplace, get with the communications and determine where to put, where's the best place to put that. In the same way with you, if you cancel your meeting, to let Mary know so an email can go out to members. So if the committee chairs are willing to do that, I think all of you do agendas in advance, then, just send them to Mary and she'll take care of getting them out there for you. The other thing that I've also saw threads on Nextdoor about are your committee minutes, as long as we're talking about some of your responsibilities as chair. I just did a spot check, and with the exception of 2 committees, all your minutes are current out there. So I was really happy to see that. One thing I did notice, I didn't see long-range planning out there. I didn't even see a bar for it. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but it must be someplace else.
Pull up the page, the welcome page, long-range planning has their own.
Down there, so that's where it is, okay. One of the things, I mentioned this to Mary, having gone out to the website, I'm not as technically savvy as a lot of people in this room, and I don't know if other members are in the same boat as I am, but trying to locate information easily without having to go through a lot of steps to find it. If the Communications Committee could think of putting some type of information sheet, maybe a cover sheet, how to navigate your website so that members know where to locate things. You have a menu lines up at the top, but unless members know how to go up there and then to click on the plus sign then to access what's behind it. I think any way we can increase our use of that website through just simple instructions would be beneficial. The website works great, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Branson, the intent is to make the website have a search feature on it up there, but I don't believe that's quite active yet. Anything else?
Any other questions, comments for Mr. Rogers? I'll check on that search feature with David Jeffries. Food and beverage, Lou Turner.
The secret of a search feature is knowing that to ask the right question. Our regular meeting took place on December the 12th. We full meeting with the quorum. We took some time to review all of our projects and where we are, and basically we were at the time kind of in a holding pattern as we look forward to making our contribution and participating in the education and / marketing plan for our members in support of the board's ballot issues, and we will continue to be prepared to work that issue. We also established a couple of subcommittees within the committee to address a couple of issues, one being a review of the dress code and then methodology for educating the membership as to what is expected in terms of dress codes in various outlets in this building in particular. We're also, a small group is looking at an in-depth review of the auto gratuity for the system and how that impacts on the cost of doing business, particularly in the labor department. And we will work with Michael and Jonathan to make sure that all of the correct information is developed, and then whatever the final review determines is we would then be prepared to keep the membership informed. We continue to support the Marina Committee in the developing of that project. One of the things that I would mention to you in regards to the first I call it the first draft of the layout of the food and beverage outlet, and that is in fact the first draft, and it will probably be one of several because until such times that all the questions by the committee members and others are reviewed and we tweak all of the changes, any similarity to what you have now and what is the final will be purely coincidental. We also took on a project that was completed by a couple of our committee members, was to look at the comment cards that Michael had received, particularly from the time that the new menu went into effect and how the membership responded. And generally, the new menu was well received with a few minor comments about items that were taken off, as opposed to things that without significant acceptance as the new menus. But generally, the menu was well received. A couple of issues that remain kind of a problem that we're working on with management, and that is to make sure that the products coming out of the kitchen are timely and hot food is served hot and cold is cold. And our next meeting is January the 9th. That's all I have.
Comments, questions for Mr. Turner?
I have a question here. It's not a question, it's a comment. I would just like to congratulate the club management for a dinner that we had here last evening with the Military Officers Association. The food was excellent, the service was outstanding. It was a sit-down, sit at your table, be served meal, and it was just a knockout night for us. We really enjoyed it. And for those of you who don't know, the MOA is an organization of folks who have served in the military, in any one of the branches of the military, whether retired or they were smart enough to get out before retirement, we don't know. But one of the things that we do is with the Field of Flags that you will be hearing more about from me, but especially, we raise a lot of money with the Field of Flags and the golf tournament that is held here, and money that supports the Marine Junior ROTC unit at Granbury High School, and those youngsters are shooting lights out nationally with their rifle team. And then we also support the veterans. For Christmas, New Year's, and for Thanksgiving and Christmas, we've been supporting veterans' families who are in need, to the tune right now of almost $12,000. So that's one of the reasons why we gather as we do with former Military Officers Association. I just wanted to comment and congratulate the clubhouse management for what they did for us last night. It was outstanding.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the good work that the officers do. We appreciate it. Any other comments, food and beverage, Mr. Kamen?
Yeah, before we go on to membership, I want to explain that, going back to sports and rec, where are we with the community gardens? Been funded and approved? Have we made any progress?
The fencing is up. The next phase will be the plots, and Jimmy told me before he went out of town that it is soon to be started. That's all I can tell you right now.
Any other questions? Okay, let's go to Dennis, membership.
Thank you, Michael. New member billings in November was 3,051. In November and December, we just had one meeting each due to the holidays. November, we had 16 new families attending, and December's orientation, we had 20 families attending. By far the majority of those in attendance, 29, were purchases of existing homes. We had 4 rental units and 3 lot purchases.
Any other comments, questions for Dennis? If not, Mr. President, I believe that concludes our committee reports for this month. Do we have something? Yes.
A couple of comments first. Gordon, for those out here who think there is a crime wave, you might have them go spend some time in East Fort Worth.
We have a bus for that.
I'd like to report from the nominating committee that we currently have 4 candidates running for the board, one of whom is present here today, Mr. Liddell. The deadline has been publicized as January 2nd, but I talked to Mary yesterday, and she told me that the deadline could be extended. It's not etched in stone in the bylaws or anywhere else. So the deadline can be moved if we don't get more candidates. We've had 2 folks who said they were going to run until they didn't. And then we've got 2 other folks who are talking about filing but haven't filed yet. So that's the update from the nominating committee. One last thing, if any of you as committee chairs know of anyone on your committee who you think would be a good candidate, you can have them get in touch with me or anyone else on the nominating committee, and we'll be glad to discuss that with them.
Thank you, Vince. Very important process that we go through every year. I want to just repeat what I said in the beginning. Let me note the committees and the projects that we are going to include on our ballot questions. It's cutting in and out. For House Food and Beverage, the 19th Hole Pro Shop, the Brazos Room, and the ballroom and tennis room expansion. And you'll be cooperating with the golf committee as well on the pro shop expansion. So we're going to need your help to promote those projects once we get the ballots prepared. The Marina Committee, very important that we get the Marina Committee working to support that. The Tennis Committee, we're very grateful that Tennis has committed $30,000 for that project, so very important. I don't see anybody from pickleball here, but we are going to approve or recommend 4 outdoor pickleball courts, and so, yeah, Keith is here. So, and sports and rec, right. I was looking for miles, that's all, right? Okay. And so we'll need your support as well, and then for the Plantation Drive project, we'll need grounds to work to support that. So in the March election, when we put those questions on the ballot, we're going to need your help in supporting those projects at the town hall meetings and in the other ways that we communicate, including the social media. So be thinking about that, how you're going to help move those projects forward. Any other comments?
Well, before everybody gets really scared that's sitting in this room, not all these projects are going to happen at the same time. Some of you are still just starting in your planning process, but the board feels it's important that members approve the concepts of your projects so that when the committees are ready, when you've gone through what is necessary to start the project and there's funding available for that project, we will have members' approval for you to go forward. So don't think you have to go out. some of you will need to be starting, your concept is well developed, and you need to be able to discuss that with members. Others, it's more a concept. So, the board is here to support you in any way we can to, answer any questions you have about that. And the board will be working on the financial, with the Finance Committee, we'll be working on the financial aspect of it, so.
Can you reiterate what dates we need to have everything ready for to present to the members?
Well, the dates for the first town hall meeting haven't been set. We will have a town hall meeting after our January board meeting, that there will be some discussion about the ballot issue. But in terms of your presentation, the board will still be working out and coming up with the dates for the town hall meetings. In the past, when we've done this, there's usually one in January and one in February. So you can't over-communicate ballot issues, is what we found out. And the clarity is what's really critical.
Yeah, I have, go ahead.
I was curious, when the ballot would go out, we'll stuff the ballot packets on the 26th of January. So anybody who would like to run for the board, even if you're not there on the 7th, I still have to have enough time to build the Bible fees and get it onto the ballot so that we can get them printed and ready to stuff on the 26th.
Yeah, I have one. I'd like to clarify the two ballots. The first ballot, this is all capital expenditures. All right? The first ballot is going to list the projects, asking the approval to do that as funds become available. So that ballot's going to require 50% plus one of the voters. The second ballot is going to present to the membership the funding of the accelerated funding for those projects, and it's going to require a 66 or 2/3 majority, because it's going to be asking for an assessment to fund those projects. So two items on the ballot. First one is 50 plus 1, which gives the board the approval to proceed as funds are available. The other one is, if you all want it to go, it's going to cost some money. All right? Is that clear? Thank you.
And no secret about it, we're going to ask for a $9 per member per month increase to do 7 projects funded directly from our capital reserve fund or from a new amenities fund, and using financing, borrowing money to make those projects happen faster. Dennis?
You answered my question. It's $9 is what we're asking for?
Not 90.
9.
Not 90.
Yeah, so we're all aware that the EMS vote passed by a wide margin, so you will see an increase in your dues next month, I suppose. And then if this project is approved, if this ballot question is approved, another $9 will bring us up to about $163 a month, which is actually what DecBODws17 is paying right now. They approved a $22 increase in their assessment a year or two ago. Interesting that they also had changed their rules to do away with the supermajority, and so an assessment increase for DecBODws only requires a 50% vote. It's for another board to address, but hopefully we'll be successful in this process as well. Bob?
You mentioned this stuff in the envelope.
Can you hear me now? No?
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, you're on. Okay, mentioned the stuffing of the ballots. We need volunteers for that. We had a sign-up sheet out by the receptionist desk, and I think we had about 8 people or 10 people. We really need some additional people this year. So I think that sign-up sheet is still out there, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It's still out there.
So please communicate that to your committees, that we are looking for help. We got a process around the end of January where we stuff envelopes, then the day before and the morning of the annual meeting is when we have to tally those votes. A lot of fun. You get a free breakfast, I think, one day.
Can we get that in the columns? Can you ask Darrell before? I didn't see him here, but can we get that in the columns before it goes to press? And an e-blast? Yeah. Who does that, Michael? Can you get that? Okay. All right. Anything else? If not, lots of stuff today. I wish everybody a happy Christmas and New Year.
Do you want to talk
Be
about
safe,
the policies?
and we'll see you in a month. I'm sorry, Joe?
Did you want to talk about the committees and their resolutions and policies?
Go ahead. You want to do that?
I can do it.
Yeah, please.
Committee chairs have just remember it's that time of year. We're looking at, please look at your policies, your resolutions, and any duties and things like voting, how many voting members do you need on your committee. It's a time for our annual review. If you could have those ready to go by the next workshop, we can start to go and give them the bylaws, et cetera, to get them approved before the next term of people in March. So please bring with you next meeting whether or not you want to make any changes, have a document change form or whatever that's required. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? If not, we're adjourned.